All right, folks, how you doing? RussellTrueResults303.com. Check out the website. Link in the description box. Mind, body, spirit, fitness, putting the healing back in health. Coming at you today with a video on why there's no such thing as a soulmate. I think we fall victim to this concept of a soulmate, finding that perfect person and, or that complementary piece to you. Complementary piece is probably a better way to put it. But there's no such thing as a soulmate. And why is that? We've got to kind of maybe go back, kind of look at history a little bit, and then we'll kind of dive forward into some other things. But if we look in the past, I hate to say it, there's a lot of people on this planet that were married for a long period of time, and they were in arranged marriages, right? I have a buddy who, back in the day, that was of Indian descent, from India. And his parents had an arranged marriage. They tried to give him an arranged marriage, and he didn't want it. But they've been married for 30 plus years. I haven't talked to them in about 5, 10 years, but I would assume they're still married. So I don't think there's really such things as soulmate. That's one example now. I'm sure there might be plenty of divorced peoples in that area that are arranged, but maybe not. I haven't done that much research on it, but that's just a little bit of food for thought. A lot of people, they did things. We talk about being loyal to family, right? Like you need to be loyal to your friends. You need to be loyal to your family and things of that nature. And of course, we'll go into past history. They also would talk about, marriage between certain families. Once again, arranged marriages for keeping power or gaining more power, right? So once again, I think it was a sacrifice, knowing what's better for the good of the entire family, right? Sometimes we have to make those sacrifices in selecting someone when they know it's what's truly good for me, instead of doing it off of a feeling or off of looks, right? We've got to be able to approach these people in what's best for me, and if I'm what's best for them, right? You need to feed off of each other. So those are kind of those ancient things. But why is there no such thing as a soulmate? Because we've got to understand that we are beings, we are humans that are going to evolve, right? If you're a believer in the Big Bang and evolution, we came from, a single organism crawled up on a beach and eventually turned into this from an ape, from a reptile, from a bird, and so on, right? So we are evolving. And to tell you the truth right now, I think if I would have gotten married 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would be in a world of hurt right now. There would be a lot of arguments, and there would be a lot of struggles in that relationship just because I didn't know who I was, or at least I'm not that person that I am now, right? So we've got to not fall victim to how you feel right now, or the area in which your life is going right now is where you're going to be 5 years from now. Because you might find someone that is totally on board and you have interests that are similar right now, but then 5 years from now, it's going to be totally different. And that person's not your soulmate, right? That's why, once again, there is no such thing as a soulmate, because you're going to evolve, right? It's like that saying where God loves you just the way you are, but he loves you too much to keep you there. So before you ever, this is why I think the Catholicism and the Christianity view of no sex before marriage and things like that is very valuable, because that creates a lot of emotional attachment and is going to, bring feelings and things into this relationship that needs not be there until the time is right. Because you are an evolving being. You are hopefully a totally different person now than you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right? And that means if you made a decision from then till now, then about picking this so-called soulmate of yours, and now you've grown apart, I think another reason is because now we're just way too immature as a society. We're so undecided. We as a society have no more loyalty. We will drop somebody at the snap of a finger to get somewhere else in life. and vice versa. So, the reason why I want to say there's a lot more maturity, I think it's just because, maybe we weren't as technology advanced back then. Um, we have this false sense now of socialization just because we have Facebook and all these things, but we are really a very antisocial culture. You can see it when you walk down the street, you see the videos of people staring at their phones, just walking into poles, walking into people, and things of that nature. We don't really have a clue of what's going on around us. I think we are more stuck on, if you know more about the world, then you're good. When you don't know much about your own neighbors and your own community. But hey, I know that there was an earthquake in Haiti last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was, right? Um, so we have this false sense of socialization because we know more about the world than we do about our own community, our own city, what's going on around us. It's the same thing as the human race as well, right? They say I think I've heard it said before, we know more about space and the universe than we do about our own ocean. Isn't that kind of weird? If it's true, I'm not sure. So once again, it comes back to maturity. I got off topic there a little bit. It comes back to maturity. And my grandparents, they were married for, on my grandparents on my mother's side, I think they just hit 50 years. Well, my grandma's 70. Or no, she's about to turn 80. No. Her birthday's coming. I can't remember if she's going to be 70 or 80. But my mother's 55. So yeah, they're at 50 plus years. And on my father's side, my grandparents were married for until the day my grandmother passed away. But I talked with my grandpa one time, and he said they knew each other for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and then they got married. Like I said, I'm not saying jump into things like that, but I think that's a sign of maturity, and that's what we lack today. That's why there's no soulmate. We find the soulmate for now, and then 2 years from now, we're like, oh man, we're totally different people. We don't want to work on it. Versus my grandparents, they said, we're getting married 5 weeks into it, and they stuck it out for 50 years or 40 years, until my grandmother passed away. And they went with it. And it's like, hey, we made this decision, and no matter what, we're going to do it. And I'm sure there were plenty ups and plenty downs, and there's times when they hated each other. My mom's told me a few stories about that side when they lived with my grandparents, when they were struggling as a young married couple. By the way, they are not married. I'm from a divorced household, if you know that or not. But, through good and bad. I mean, that's what it's truly about. And that's what they did to the day they died. And I think, like you said, that's what we lack. We lack that maturity and loyalty. We think we're loyal. But when it comes down to it, we're just selfish beings that don't really care about anyone else. And you can see it in today's society. Even with the job market, right? They say now, people aren't retiring for pensions. They just head out, go somewhere else where they can get more bang for their buck. Which, hey, rightfully so. Employees do it nowadays too. They're shipping jobs overseas. They don't care, or employers, they don't care about you. So of course we've become a society of greed, in a society where a corporation is considered a person, right? So like I said, it's just be careful on this soulmate and make sure that you're mature enough, the other person is mature enough to understand what marriage actually is, what these things, this next step that you're actually taking is going to entail, because it's going to be the hardest journey that you've ever come across, most likely, right? And then be careful when you get into these marriages as well, right? Because at the beginning, what is it always when you and your wife or you and your spouse argue? I don't see any ring on this finger. Hey, well, next time, once you decide to put a ring on that finger, I don't care if you've been dating for 10 years. If your excuse has been, I don't see no ring on this finger, and all of a sudden there's a ring on that finger, things are going to change. There's going to be a lot more difficulties and a lot more struggles and growing pains than you could ever expect. So I have a video on how to find your soulmate that I'm going to put there in the description box for y'all, right? And we'll go from there. You guys comment, let me know what your thoughts are on this topic. Put in the comment box. I try to respond. It might take me a while. Sometimes I forget and I get busy or I get lazy. I'm not gonna lie. So once again, I hope that helps. Subscribe to the channel, share and like these videos.